everyone, welcome to today's walkthrough video tutorial of Leo the Lion from LYKKE's AMITAMI kits. Before we get into it, I wanted to show you everything that comes in the kit so you can get familiar with our materials, and then we'll jump right into it. So first and foremost, we do have our main color today, which is going to be yellow, as well as colors A and B. We have off-white and black, just a small amount of those. We of course have our crochet hook we'll be using in today's tutorial, as well as some stuffing for Leo, our stitch marker, our tapestry needle, and then of course the instructions. I will be reading these step by step for you and showing you how to work each round, but if you'd like to follow along with me, you are more than welcome to do so here. We're going to be starting here at the legs and working our way down. You can also find on here the list of abbreviations and conversions, as well as a diagram for the magic ring, which I'll also be showing you how to work. So without further ado, let's get right into working Leo the Lion. So in order to start Leo, the only things you need in front of you right now are our main color, again, that is yellow, and our crochet hook, which is a 2.5 millimeter. So we're just going to take the label off of our yarn, and that way we can get right into making Leo. And the first instruction we have here is for round 1. With the main color, make a magic ring, chain 1, and place 6 single crochets into the ring. So in order to create our magic ring, we're going to place 2 fingers out like this, both our index and our middle finger. We're going to drape the yarn over those 2 fingers with the tail side pointing down by our middle finger. Then hold the yarn in place with your thumb while you wrap the yarn around under your middle finger and back over your index finger, creating an X over your index finger. You can turn your hand then and grab that working yarn with your ring finger to hold it in place. Then you're going to take your crochet hook with the hook side facing downwards like this, go under that first strand, grab that second strand, and pull it back under the first strand. Start twisting the hook slightly towards you like this, and scooch it over to grab that working yarn. You're going to go under and grab the working yarn there. Then you want to take the working yarn and pull it through that hole we've created on the hook here, just like that. And you've created a magic ring. What a magic ring does is it gives you the ability to cinch your stitches in after you've crocheted into the magic ring, and you'll just pull it like this and it'll close like that. So it is magic, literally. Let's do that one more time together so you can get the hang of it. 2 fingers out, draping the yarn over, holding in place with your thumb, wrapping it around, and catching it with your ring finger. Remember to create the X here. Then with your hook facing downward, go under that first strand, pulling that second strand back under the first strand, slightly turning the hook towards you, scooching it over and grabbing the working yarn. Then you can pull that working yarn through the loop on your hook, and you have created your magic ring just like that. Another thing you can do if you're having trouble catching on to the magic ring is you can always just chain up 4. So let me do that really quick. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can go ahead and slip stitch into that first chain you made, the farthest one from the hook. So just create a slip stitch into there. And now you have a small hole you can work into as well. The only difference is this one you cannot adjust the size of, so you will have to be okay with that, but typically it'll close up pretty well as well for you. So if you're having trouble with the magic ring, that's always an option, but I'm gonna do a magic ring one more time and then we can begin the pattern. So for round 1, it says using your main color, make the magic ring, which we just did. Chain up 1, so we'll chain 1 just like so, and then make 6 single crochets into the ring. So this is what I mean by working in the ring. We're going to want to put our stitches onto this line right here where you have the 2 strands, because that's where we'll pull and close our hole up. So our first step is under the ring, grabbing the yarn, pulling it up, yarn over, pull through for our single crochet. We have 1. We'll do that again. We're always working into the ring, which means we need to go under it to grab the yarn and pull it back up, and then yarn over and pull through. So right now we have 1, 2, 3. So we have 3 more left to do. 4, 5, and 6. After you've created all 6 single crochet, we're going to need to take our stitch marker here and place it in the last stitch, because this will mark the end of each round, and as we work more rounds, it'll get more challenging to see where that end of round is. So now to tighten the loop, we just need to pull the loop shut with the end tail of that yarn, and we have our circle beginning, which is exactly what we want. So for round 2, it says single crochet in the next stitch, increase in the next stitch. We're going to do that 3 times to bring our new stitch count from 6 to 9. So into that first stitch over here, we're going to work 1 single crochet, just like that. Then into that second stitch, we're going to work our first increase. So an increase is just 2 single crochet in the same stitch. So there's 1 single crochet back into that same stitch. There we go. We'll make another one. So now we have 2 single crochets in 1 stitch, which creates our increase. So we need to do this 3 times. So go ahead and do that 2 more times, and we'll have a new stitch count of 9. Okay, I'm to the last stitch of the round. So I'm going to work my 2 single crochets into this last stitch here. And remember, after every round to remove that stitch marker and move it up into the new round, so we have our new end of round marking. Now for round 3, our instructions are to make 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches and then an increase 3 times, so our new stitch count will be 12. So let's do that together as well. Into that first stitch, we'll just do 1 single crochet. Into that next stitch, 1 single crochet again. And then into that third stitch, we're going to make an increase again. So we'll make 2 single crochets into this 1 stitch here. Perfect. There is our increase. And that was very similar to the last round. So let's do that one more time. 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, and then into that next stitch, we're going to place 2 in that 1 stitch to create another increase. Perfect. Go ahead and do that one more time, and that'll be the end of round 3. Well done. So now for round 4 and the last round of our first leg, we need to make 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way around. So no increasing and no decreasing. We're still going to have 12 stitches at the end of this round. So go ahead and work round 4. I'll meet you back to finish off the leg. I'll show you how to do that. Just making my last single crochet in the last stitch of the round. You can completely remove the stitch marker now because this is the end of leg 1. And to finish off this first leg, all we need to do is chain an additional 1, and that will kind of lock our stitch into place there, so we will not have any unraveling. And then go ahead and cut yourself a little tail of yarn. And to finish this off, we're just going to take our crochet hook, pull it up and off just like that. And that'll extra lock it in. So the next thing I'm going to do here is just take my little leg, and so this yarn tail is on the inside. I'm going to flip it inside out, just like that. And this also does change the way our stitches look from the inside, or what was the outside previous. They looked like this. So now we have the stitches on the right side here. So now that we have the first leg of Leo done, you're going to go ahead and create the second leg. The second leg is the same 4 rounds we just made with this. So go ahead and complete that on your own. We'll meet back here to join the legs together and start working the body. The only difference is when you finish your second leg, do not cut yourself a tail and fasten off. We're actually going to continue working with that working yarn and join the legs together. So go ahead and work 1 more of these legs and we'll meet back to join them together. All right, and now we have our 2 legs and we're ready to join them. I did take my crochet hook out of the second leg just to kind of show them to you. And also while we are here, we can kind of cut the tails of the inside here a little bit shorter just so they're not in the way when we are connecting them, because that will get a little confusing if they're too much in the way. So go ahead and cut those much shorter if you have a long tail. That'll just prevent us from having issues later. So now we're going to join the legs. So I'm going to put my crochet hook back into the second leg we were already working and where we would have ended off. So since the instructions for round 5 are kind of long, we're going to work them in small segments. So let's start by joining the legs. So first thing we need to do is chain up 3. So let's chain up 3 from this second leg we were already working on, okay? So there we go. We've chained up 3 and now we need to connect the first and second leg together. So in order to do that, we need to connect along one of these single crochets here. I'm going to just connect in this first stitch after we fastened off here. So right into this stitch, I'm going to have the working yarn behind me like this, and I'm going to enter the front of that stitch like so. We're going to grab the loop and pull it through just like that, pulling up the loop, yarn over and pull through. Now we have joined the two legs together. The next set of instructions is to place 1 single crochet in the next 11 stitches. So we'll just do as we were working already. Nothing is different here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 right here at the top where we had fastened off previously. There we go. Perfect. And now the next set of instructions says working in that chain 3, that's the chain 3 we made to originally connect them, single crochet 1 in the next 3 chains. So we're just going to be working right on that chain 3 braid. It's kind of tricky to get in there, but you're just going to grab the one leg of the stitch over here. So this front part of the V that's closest to you when you're holding your project towards you, you're going to work into that part of the V, and we're going to make a single crochet. And the reason we're not working over the entire thing like this is because when we come back on the other side, we're going to work in this other bar of the V. So into that second stitch, working in just the bar closest to us, and then into that third and final chain stitch, we'll work into that part of the bar closest to us there. And now we have worked across our chain 3. So now it says working on the second leg, single crochet in each of the next 12 stitches. So go ahead and do that as normal. We'll just work our next 12 single crochets around the leg, and I will meet you back after these 12 stitches to do the other side of the chain 3. So now that we've worked those 12 single crochets all the way back around to the front, we are back to our chain 3 section here, and it says working in the unused loop on the other side of the chain 3, single crochet in the next 3 chains. So just as we did on the other side, we're just going to work in this other part of the bar of that V stitch, and this is technically considered the unused loop of the chain 3. So there we go. We've now worked those 3 single crochets in those 3 chain spaces, and we have completed this round. So we are going to mark this stitch right here. That is the last stitch made, and this will be the new spot that we move up every single round. And we're ready to begin the next round. So the next round is much simpler, which is good. So for round 6 through 12, which is going to be 7 rounds total, we're going to work 1 single crochet in every stitch all the way around. So no increasing or decreasing. You're just going to follow this new guide we have of working all the way around the legs to start the body, and that'll be 7 rounds. Remember each round to be moving your stitch marker up 1 so you don't lose track, and I would highly recommend either keeping count on a scrap piece of paper or even on the instructions. Make a little tally so you don't lose track of what round you are on. I will work my 7 rounds of no increasing or decreasing, and I'll meet you back here for round 13 together. All right, welcome back. We have our 7 rounds worked, and as you can see, our body is really starting to take shape here for Leo. We have our legs and kind of our tummy area created. So let's continue on because we are starting round 13 now. So for round 13, it says single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches and then a decrease. We're going to do this 6 times to bring our new stitch count from 30 down to 24. So let's do that together because we haven't worked a decrease yet. So into the first stitch, just a regular single crochet like we're used to, into the second stitch, 1 single crochet, and into that third stitch, 1 single crochet. Now to create a decrease, it's quite easy, but let me show you. So we'll go into our first stitch as normal to make a single crochet. We're going to grab our loop and pull it up, but instead of completing the stitch here like we're used to, we're actually going to go into the next stitch as well and pull up another loop. So now we have 3 loops on the hook. Then we'll yarn over and close that stitch. So we just brought 2 stitches down to 1 stitch, making a decrease. Let's do that one more time together. So we'll work 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets, and 3 single crochets. Now we have another decrease. So over these next 2 stitches, we'll go into that first stitch, pull up a loop, and then into the next stitch, and pull up another loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, and pull through. There you go. So we had to do that 6 times total. We've done it twice together. So do that 4 more times, and I will meet you back at the end of round 13. We'll begin round 14 together. All right, so now with our new stitch count of 24 for round 14, we're just going to work 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way around, no increasing or decreasing. So go ahead and work that, and we'll meet back for the next round. Perfect. Let's begin round 15. So for round 15, we're going to do some more decreasing. So we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches and then a decrease. So similar to that previous round of decreasing, we're just going to do it 1 stitch sooner. So there's 1 single crochet, here's 2 single crochet, and then over these next 2 stitches, let's make our decrease here. So remember, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through. Go ahead and complete that for this entire round. I'll meet you back here and we'll begin round 16 together. So now that we've worked round 15, we have 18 single crochets in our circle here, and we're going to work around 16 by making 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way around. So again, no increasing or decreasing. Go ahead and complete that. I'll meet you back for round 17. All right, we only have 1 round left of the body. So before we close up the body here and make this hole even smaller, let's stuff it so it's not as difficult to stuff later. So you just need a little bit of your stuffing, and I like to pull it apart a little bit before I stuff it. It just makes your plushie extra fluffy, and then you can just begin pushing it into the hole. You want to stuff this firmly, but not so it's overflowing and you're having a bunch of stuffing up here at the top, because that'll just make it really difficult to continue working your single crochets around. So just do a nice amount of stuffing. I'll show you how much I end up doing, and make sure you push it down into your little legs here and give him a nice even stuff. So I'll meet you back here for the last round, round 17, after I have him fully stuffed. All right, so for me, I'm going to stop my stuffing about there, and I'm going to put my hook back into my loop here and close my loop so that we can continue our last round. So for our last round, round 17, we're going to make 1 single crochet in the next stitch and then a decrease, bringing our new stitch count down to 12. So as we've been doing, we're just going to create 1 single crochet in that first stitch, and then over the next 2 stitches, we'll make our decrease here. And we're doing that 6 times. So there's 1 time, and go ahead and complete that 5 more times after this. And I'll meet you back at the stitch marker. We'll fasten off our body. All right, I'm just completing my last stitch of the body. There we go. We do not need to put our stitch marker back in since we are through. Make sure you just do a chain 1. Leave yourself a nice tail for sewing the head on later. I'm gonna snip that. And then of course, remember to take your crochet hook, pull it all the way up and off to extra secure that into place there. And now we have Leo's body all completed. So for now, we can actually put his body aside. We will be getting to this later, but we do need to make the head first. So all the same materials in front of us, using our main color again. Let's create our magic ring, and or you can do your chain 4 and slip stitch method if that's easier for you. We're going to begin round 1 of the head very similar to how we began the leg, if you remember all that time ago. So just make sure you chain 1, and then we'll make 6 single crochets into that ring so we can pull it nice and snug. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, making sure we're always working through the ring, and then we can pull it closed like that. Perfect. And we'll take our stitch marker, place it in the last stitch here. So for round 2, we are going to increase in every stitch to bring our stitch count from 6 up to 12. So we remember how to do an increase into that first stitch here. We're just going to make 1 single crochet, and then we're going to make another single crochet into that stitch again, 2 in that 1 stitch. Go ahead and complete that all the way around. So we'll have 12 single crochet at the end of round 2. Very good. So for the next rounds to follow, we're going to keep increasing the size of this circle for the head. So for round 3, we're going to make 1 single crochet in the next stitch and then an increase. We're going to do that 6 times to bring our stitch count from 12 to 18. So into that first stitch, we'll make 1 single crochet. Into the second stitch, we'll make 2 single crochet. And go ahead and complete that sequence 5 more times, and then we'll have 18 single crochet at the end of round 3. All right, for round 4, we're going to increase the circle again. So this time we're going to do 2 single crochets and then an increase after that. So remember, increase 2 in the same stitch. We're going to do that 6 times around. So after this time here, 5 more times, and that will bring our new stitch count up to 24. So I'll meet you back at the end of round 4. We'll begin round 5 together. Let's begin round 5. So for round 5, 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches, then an increase 6 times, and that'll bring our new stitch count to 30. So go ahead and work that. I'll meet you back here at the end of round 5. All right, and for round 6, very similar. We're going to work 1 single crochet in the next 4 stitches and then an increase, bringing our new stitch count to 36. So go ahead and work your 1 single crochet in the next 4 stitches and then your increase 6 times, and I will meet you back here for the next round. All right, and for round 7, any guesses? We're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 5 stitches and then our increase. So go ahead and work that 6 times. Our new stitch count will be 42 at the end of round 7, and we'll meet back for round 8. We're now working round 8, which is going to be the last round of our increases for the head. So for this round, we're going to work 1 single crochet in the next 6 stitches, then an increase. We'll do this, of course, 6 times as we have been doing. So I'll meet you back here at the end of round 8, and we'll begin our repeat rounds together. All right, so now that we've increased to 48 stitches, we're going to begin our repeats. So for rounds 9 through 14, we're going to work 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way around. No increasing, no decreasing. Remember to be moving your marker after every round and to keep tally of what round you're on so you don't forget. So I'll work these 6 rounds and you work yours, and then we'll meet back and we'll begin round 15 together. All right, I've now completed rounds 9 through 14. As you can see, we have kind of a bowl shape going on here. So this is where we worked those increases to make that large circle, and building those rows of just single crochet is what creates this kind of wall. So now we actually need to decrease this to complete our circle or our ball shape. So let's do that. And to do that, we first need to find the yarn. There we go. So our first round of decreasing is going to be round 15, which is 1 single crochet in each of the next 6 stitches and then a decrease. So very similar to how we increased, we're going to do that almost in reverse now with decreasing. So just a little refresher on a decrease. We have 1 single crochet, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then number 6 right here. Perfect. And then we need to work our decrease. So into that first stitch, pull up a loop, into the next stitch, pull up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, pull through, making 2 stitches 1. So there you go, and that is 1 set of 6 single crochet and a decrease. So do that 5 more times around. We're going to bring our stitch count down to 42, and I'll meet you back at the end of this round. We'll begin the next one together. All right, I've just completed round 15. So for round 16 now, we're going to make 1 single crochet in the next 5 stitches, then our decrease. We're going to do this 6 times all the way around, bringing our new stitch count to 36. So go ahead and complete that. I'll meet you back at the end of this round. We'll begin the next one together. Now we're going to begin round 17. Round 17 again, we're decreasing. So this time we're doing 1 single crochet in the next 4 stitches and then a decrease, doing this again 6 times. We're going to bring our new stitch count down to just 30. So I will see you at the end of this round and we'll begin round 18 together. All right, and for round 18 and continuing our decreasing, we are going to make 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches and then a decrease, doing that 6 times over and bringing our new stitch count to 24. So go ahead and complete round 18 and we'll meet back for round 19. So now that we've worked round 18, just the same as when we did the body, as our hole gets smaller here, our opening, it's going to get harder to put stuffing in. So I'm going to lift my loop on the hook just a little bit so I don't lose my spot. And I'm just going to take some of the stuffing and stuff the majority of the head now, and then we can always add a little more as we go, but this will just make sure it's not super tricky to be stuffing it more and more as the hole gets smaller and smaller. So just enough where you can still be crocheting without pulling stuffing through your stitches, and then we'll begin round 19, which we're also going to be decreasing for round 19. All right, so I'm going to stop there. As I mentioned, I will add more as we go, but putting my loop back on the hook, I'm going to pull that tight so I'm ready to begin crocheting again. And round 19 is 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches and then a decrease. So just as we're doing this 6 times again. Go ahead and complete that for round 19 and I'll meet you back here to begin round 20. For round 20, in the last round of our head, we're going to make 1 single crochet in the next stitch and then a single crochet decrease. Again, doing this 6 times to bring our stitch count down to just 12, and that will be the last round of the head. So go ahead and complete that, and then we will fasten off together. Just completing my last stitch here. I'm going to remove my stitch marker. We don't need to place that back anywhere because, as I mentioned, we are done. So there's my last decrease. Chaining 1, and then to fasten off, we just need to leave ourselves a nice tail for sewing on later, just like that. And remember to take our hook, pull it all the way up and off of the yarn there. Awesome. I still do have some room to add more stuffing, so I will do that later, but for now the head is basically done. We have the head and body. These will be ready to attach together later, but we can put these aside because we're going to start on the arms. So we're going to make 2 of these, and we'll make the first one together, and then you'll make the next one on your own. So still using our main color, the yellow, we're going to create our magic ring, and or you can make your, of course, chain 4 and slip stitch into the last stitch. And we are going to put 6 single crochets into there. So starting with the chain 1, and then we'll add our 6 single crochet just as we were with all of our previous body parts we've made. After my 6th single crochet, adding my stitch marker into place here and pulling tight my magic ring to cinch it all in. There we go. We have our 6 single crochet. And now for rounds 2 through 8, we're going to be working in this very small circle here. We're going to do 7 rounds of 1 single crochet in each stitch. So no increasing or decreasing. We're just going to keep working around. Make sure you move your marker every single round and make a tally so you know when you have completed your 7 rounds. I'll meet you back here when the arm is completed. All right, I've just completed my 1 arm, and no need for stuffing this. It's going to be just fine the way it is. So let's fasten off as we know how by chaining 1 and cutting a tail for sewing it on later. Go ahead and complete 1 more of those arms, and then we'll start working the ears together as well. So now for the ears, we're also going to make 2 of these. Go ahead and make your magic ring or your chain 4 slip stitch, whichever you've been using for this pattern, and chain up 1. After that, we're going to do something just a little bit different because we're going to be making 8 half double crochets into our ring here. So we're used to making single crochets, but half double crochet is just a little bit different. So to do a half double crochet, we're going to yarn over before we enter the circle here. So we have our yarn over. We're going to go through our magic ring, grab the loop and pull it up, 3 loops on the hook here, yarn over and pull through. That's a half double crochet. Let's do that again. Yarning over first, going into the circle and pulling up the loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through. There's 2. One more time, yarn over into the magic circle, pulling up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through. That's 3 times. Go ahead and do that until you've completed 8 half double crochets, and then we'll meet back to fasten the ear off. So I've just pulled my tail tight, and as you can see now, we have created like this little half circle shape, a little bit more than a half circle, but this is going to be our little ear. So nothing more to do there. We can fasten this off, and again, fastening off is a chain 1 and leaving a tail for sewing. Go ahead and create 1 more of those. We'll meet back and we will begin the next part of our lion together. We're almost at the end here. So we're going to take a small break from our main color, our yellow, and we're going to grab color A, which is our off-white, because right now we're going to create the muzzle of Leo, our lion. So just find the beginning point of your yarn here and go ahead and create your magic ring or your chain 4 slip stitch, whichever method you're using. I, of course, am going to be making the magic ring here, and then we're going to chain up 1. So go ahead and do that. And we're going to make 8 single crochets into our ring here. So let's go ahead and make those quickly, and I'll meet you back after those 8. We'll begin round 2 of the muzzle. I have all 8 of my single crochets in my magic ring. I'm going to pull that closed to cinch it up, and I'll place my stitch marker in the last stitch here as we are used to doing. Add my crochet hook back in, and then for round 2, our instructions are to make an increase into every stitch. So we're going to go from 8 stitches up to 16 stitches. So remember, an increase is just going to be 2 single crochet in 1 stitch. So go ahead and make 2 single crochet in every single stitch all the way around. I'll meet you back here to begin round 3. I have just finished round 2 of the muzzle, and now we're going to move on to our last round of the muzzle, round 3, which is going to be 1 single crochet in every stitch all the way around. So go ahead and make 1 single crochet in the next 16 stitches, and then we'll fasten off the muzzle and we'll move on to working the mane. I've just put my last stitch in for round 3. I'm going to chain up 1, cut myself a tail to sew the muzzle on to the head later on, and of course pulling my crochet hook up and off to secure that loop. Muzzle is completed, so we can put this aside. We're going to work on the mane now, so we'll need our yellow yarn again. All right, now working back with our main color, our yellow, let's make the mane. So for the mane, we need to chain up 45 first and foremost. So let's do that. I'll chain this up and I'll meet you back once I have 45 to move on to the next part. So once we've chained up 45, we need to join this into a circle. So to do that, we're going to go into that first chain we made and we're going to slip stitch into that chain. Make sure you're keeping your braid nice and straight. You're not curling it around. That'll cause you some issues if you do so. So you want to make sure it's nice and flat there. And once you've done that, you can chain up 2. So we have 1, 2, just like that. And then we're going to make 2 double crochets in each of the next 2 chains and 3 in the next chain all the way around. So to show you how to do that, let's work a double crochet together because we haven't done that yet. So yarn over first, just like we did for the half double crochet earlier, and into that next chain, you're going to enter and pull up a loop like that, yarn over, pull through 2, only 2 there, so you have 2 left on the hook, yarn over and pull through 2 more. That is a double crochet. So let's do that again. We're going to yarn over before we enter the stitch, and into that same stitch we just worked in, we're going to pull up a loop and we're going to yarn over, pull through 2, just like that, yarn over and pull through those second 2. So there we go. We have another double crochet. And now into the next chain, we need to place 2 double crochets again. So this is double crochet increase. So into that next chain, we're going to make 1 double crochet here, just like that, and make another double crochet into that same chain space. It's going to start getting very ruffly on you, but that's exactly what we're trying to do here to make the mane. So now we have 2 double crochets in one chain, 2 double crochets in the next chain, and into the third chain here, we need to make 3 double crochets into this chain. That's going to be our sequence repeat for the mane. So there's 1 double crochet, there's 2 double crochet, and 3 double crochet, all into that same chain space. You're going to go ahead and repeat that all the way till you get back to the beginning where we started, where we chained up those 2, and I'll show you how to join that and finish off. So go ahead and repeat that all the way around your circle here. I'll meet you back once we've worked our double crochets into all these chain spaces. All right, so I've just completed all my double crochets for the mane, and to finish this off, we're going to slip stitch right into the top of that first double crochet we made. So let's just slip stitch into there, and then we'll finish it off as we have been by chaining 1, leave a little tail for sewing as we have been doing, and go ahead and pull that off your hook. There, your mane is all finished, and you can set that aside. We have one last piece to make. We need to make a tail. So we just have a little bit of yarn left, but that's okay. That's all we need. So with our main color, we just need to go ahead and chain up 10. So nothing crazy here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And that is it. So actually, after you're done with that 10th stitch, you can just pull the rest of your yarn, if you only have a little bit like me left, through, or you can cut and pull it through, whichever one. But that's going to be our little tail, and this we will be fastening on to the body. So let's pull all of our pieces forward and we'll begin assembling our Leo. All right, so I've pulled all of our pieces of Leo in front of us to start sewing him together. You can put your crochet hook aside because we actually don't need that anymore, but we do need our tapestry needle out now, which I've already threaded onto the body because we are going to start by attaching the head and the body together. So just to get all this confusing yarn out of the way, I'm going to move my ears and arms aside for now, and we're going to just focus on the head and body. This is your last chance to add any more stuffing that you might want to add to either the head or body, so you can do that now. And before we start sewing these together, a little trick I like to do is I am actually going to take both of the head and the body And I'm just going to tie a really tight knot here to kind of start securing it into place for us. Just like that. If you can see what I've done there, it'll just help give me a good starting point because it can be really tricky to sew some of these larger pieces together. Okay, so now we do have some kind of point where we're attached, and it'll make it easier to hold the head in position while we sew the body onto the head. So with my tapestry needle that's already threaded, I'm going to show you how I like to secure things together. So got my body and head turned sideways a little bit with the body, the bottom of the legs facing me, the head's facing away, and I'm just going to weave in the head, and then I'm going to weave into the body here like so, and pull the yarn all the way through to secure it in. You want to make sure every single time you're weaving through, you're going through both of the head and the body. So this time I'm going to go into the body first, and then I will come out the top of the head here like this. Perfect. And as you sew more and more, it gets a little bit easier to hold it into place. This time I'm going to go in the top of the head and through the body like this. And I'm just going to repeat this pattern in a circle all the way around into every stitch, just making sure it's the most secure as possible so none of our stuffing comes out. So go ahead and repeat this process all the way around the entire head of Leo, and I will meet you back here once we finish sewing the head to the body. Also, make sure you're working through the last round of those single crochets. So I'm going through this entire stitch here, and I'm doing the same thing on the bottom. A little harder to show you there, but we're working through the last round of that single crochet that we ended off on, if that helps at all, just to know where your guide point is. Once you've made it around the circle and you feel pretty confident about how secure the head is to the body, we're just going to weave these extra tails that we have here through any part of the body or the head. It doesn't matter where, but this is going to just help us really hide those loose tails so they don't come popping out of our projects at any point. So I'll move this one so you can see this one came out here, and then I'm just going to cut it off right here. And that'll just make sure none of those loose ends, as I mentioned, come out of the head at any point or out of his neck. This is also a great time to cut off any tails you might have from when we connected the legs. So go ahead and hide all these little tails in your project, cut them off, and then we'll begin sewing on the arms together. Now that all of our ends are in for the head and body, we can start the arms. So I did pull both of my arms forward, and I have one threaded. So the instructions for the arms say position the arms on either side of the body, one round below the neckline, using the yarn tails to sew them into place and secure. So here's our neck right here. So just at one row below. So we'll go right in about here, and you want to make sure you're pretty much right smack dab on the center of the side of the body here like that. And I'll just push my little yarn needle through, and then I'll turn his little arm like this. And you're just going to mimic that same thing we did for his head to his body by sewing through both of the body and the arm with every stitch to really secure it down. And after you complete that side, go ahead and do the exact same thing for the other arm, and we'll meet back when both of our arms are on and our tails are secured into the project. All right, both of our arms are secured onto the body now, and we can add the mane to his head. So it says position the mane onto the head, passing it over the top point of the head under the chin, using the yarn tails to sew it into place. So I did already thread my mane. Just make sure before you do this that you straighten it out so all the ruffles are on the same right side. And I'm actually going to have all my tails up at the top so I can sew it right onto his head at the top point here, and I'm just going to slip it over. Look how cute that is. All right, perfect. That's pretty much in place right where I would like it to be. And then I'm just going to come from the top up here, passing through those double crochets and then into the top of the head. And I'll just sew this down a couple times. It's going to stay pretty well as is because it is fit to this head pretty perfectly, but we do just want to secure it down a couple of times here. So I'm just going to go back and forth a few times. I'll do that, and then I'm going to weave in the tails at the top here. We'll meet back and put on the nose together. So with our mane now secured on to the head, let's embroider the nose and mouth onto the muzzle. So go ahead and thread your black yarn onto your tapestry needle and grab your white little snout or your muzzle here. We're going to begin by creating the little nose on here. So it says on the instructions, with color B, embroider a V-shaped nose onto the muzzle and make a vertical stitch under the nose. Position muzzle on the face between rounds 12 and 17 of the head and using the yarn tail and needle sew the muzzle into place. So first thing we want to do is create that little V. So I'm actually going to come in from the back right through the center of the muzzle here. And I'm going to pull this up, and I'm actually going to pull this all the way almost through, not quite obviously, but leaving a little tail there. And then we'll create our little V. So the first stitch I'm actually going to do is just going to be one up, just straight. And that'll be the first part of the muzzle. And then I'm going to come out slightly to the left here, just like that. And go back into that same stitch where we first came out, right in the center there. We're going to go right back into there. All right, then we're going to repeat that on the other side, coming out slightly to the right. And back through the center where we very first began. So now this is what our nose is looking like. And I am just going to one more time come out the right side just because it's not quite as thick as I'd like it to. And I'm going to repeat that same process that we just did. So I'm going to go through the center, then come out the middle, go back through the center and come out the left, just retracing the steps we just did just to make the nose a little bit extra thick. So I'll see you once I do that, and then we'll move on to the next step together. All right, so now that my nose is a little bit thicker, I'm definitely happy with that. And we're gonna go one stitch below. I'm coming out the center again. So if you're not currently at the center, go ahead and get to this point, and we're gonna move down one row of stitches. So this is one row of single crochets here, and we're just gonna place one line straight down the center of that nose, our little triangle, and create that little line on the mouth there, just like that. Perfect. And now we can turn it over and we will snip this off. If you'd like, you can also tie all these pieces back here together just to make sure they're extra secure. So I'm just going to give them one little knot here. Don't pull that too tight or you might tighten up some of your embroidery stitching there. So that's just going to help me feel more secure that my mouth won't come undone. And I'm just going to cut off some of these extra ends that I don't necessarily need. So now with my muzzle threaded on to my tapestry needle, we can sew this right onto the face. So you can just eyeball this where you would like it to be, but if you want to go based on the instructions, it said to sew it down in place between rounds 12 and 17. So the way you would count that back is right here at the top of the head, where you can kind of see back behind the mane, we have our first swirl here. This is where we started our magic ring. So you just need to count back from that. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So the first part of the muzzle is going to start here, and I'm just going to go through about one stitch, just to kind of mark that spot because it'll naturally fall to about row 17 once it's on there like that. So once it's secured like that and we have it a little bit in place, I'm just going to start sewing around same way I sewed the head onto the body, just by making sure every stitch is going through the muzzle and then through the body to make sure it's nice and secure. Put you back here once my muzzle is all sewn on, and we will embroider some eyes onto our Leo. So I've just finished sewing the muzzle down. I'm going to push one more time through just to hide that tail. Also make sure while you're sewing the muzzle on, you're being mindful that you're keeping the nose very straight to the center of the head. Cut this little tail off here. I'm going to rethread my black yarn, and then we are going to embroider these eyes and eyebrows on. Okay, so for the eyes, it says to use color B, our black, to embroider them on round 12, leaving 8 stitches between them. So that's easy to know where round 12 is because that is the row we started the muzzle on. So I'm just going to count over 4 stitches since we need 8 between. We want 4 on each side to be nice and even, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to come in right at the bottom of round 12 and come up one row of single crochets higher, and that will create our first eye. Oops. Oops, got caught on his little hand there. Pull this almost all the way through here, but not quite. Leave enough to sew in later, just to hide that tail at the end. Then going right through where we just created that stitch, we're gonna go over that again, just to make it a little bit thicker. And you're gonna do this about 3 or 4 times, kind of whatever you feel looks best to you. It's totally personal preference. But for me, that's 2. So let's see what one more time through looks like. Okay, that's 3. I'm gonna go one more time through. So 4 will be the perfect amount for me here. And then we're going to make sure we count 4 over this way to place our other one. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm gonna hold that spot with my nail here because we need to get over there. So to get over there, instead of just coming in right here, we would create a giant black line across our work like this if we did so, which of course we do not want. So we're gonna actually go back under where we just came out of. We're gonna go back into that stitch, and we're gonna bring our tapestry needle all the way across and out at the top of where our stitch is, so it's even with our other eye there. We're gonna pull that all the way through. So all that black yarn is going to be inside of our work, and it's not going to create any type of line on the front. See that there? And then we just need to go through here 4 times to replicate exactly what we did on the other side. So go ahead and do that as many times as you found was good for you, and I will meet you back here. We'll do the eyebrows next. All right, now that both eyes are in, don't worry about these ends. We'll do that all at the end of the facial features. So we need to make our eyebrows. It says 2 rounds up from where we worked our eyes, which would be round 9. So we just have 1 round, 2 rounds. So right in here is where we're going to be working, right up here. And it says to just leave about 8 stitches in between those. So again, I'm going to just hold my finger slightly diagonal from the eye here, holding my nail just to kind of be a placeholder. And we want to go back under our work because we don't want to create that black line across our face of our lion, of course. So I'm just going to come out slightly diagonal like that over here. Because if you look at the photo, his eyebrows are slightly slanted. So we're going to want to do that same thing. So once we have our eyebrow at the bottom there, we just need to go up and over slightly diagonal like that. And you can go as many stitches as you want. I'm just going to go about right here. So that's about 1.5 stitches apart. And I'm going to come out over on this side here, which can be kind of tricky, but luckily you can kind of map it out before you push your needle all the way through. So let's see what that looks like here. Now you can of course count out 8 stitches if you would like to be exact, but I'm just kind of going with it here. I think that looks pretty even where it's at, so I'm just going to go 1 row below and slightly diagonal there. And this time the only difference is I'm going to actually push this out the back of the head so we can cut it off, because that's all the facial features we needed to design here. So watch his arm and watch this tail here, but we're going to pull that and then we'll snip this off here. Go ahead, weave in the other end, and that's all we needed for the face. We'll do the ears next. All right, Leo is really starting to come together. So let's do the last 2 steps, which is going to be his ears and his tail. So first off with the ears, I have my ear threaded, and the instructions for the ears say position them on either side of the head between rounds 5 and 8 using the yarn tails and tapestry needle to sew them into place. So you can count from here. At the top of the mane again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You want to start about here, but slide your needle over to the side. Biggest thing is just to make sure you are keeping it in front of that mane, because you want to be able to see those cute little ears. So we'll just go from 5, 6, 7, and then at the top of 8 here is where we'll come out. Just going to pull that through right there, and I'm just going to secure it down a couple of times, going back and forth from both the ear and then into the head. Very similar to how we've been sewing everything else down. So go ahead and do that a couple of times and repeat the same process on the other side for your other ear, and we'll meet back to put the tail on. The ears are on and we are ready to work our last step of Leo. So go ahead and turn Leo over for the tail, and it says position the tail between rounds 8 and 9 using the yarn needle to sew it into place. Make sure the knot at the end of the tail splits and the strands make it look like the lion's tail. If you remember, we had rounds 1 through 4 for these legs here. So round 5 was that connecting one. So we have 5, 6, 7, 8. So we're going to go right into here between 8 and 9. Making sure you're centered, that's the most important part, and just pull that through. There you go. I'm going to just secure it a couple of times into place. So I'll just go through it again, come out slightly to this side maybe, and one more time through just to be extra secure. There we go, that's perfect. Then I'll push that yarn tail all the way through to the front here where I can snip it off. And on the back here then, we'll give his tail a tiny little trim here. So we just have a little bit of this hair here at the end. And then I'll just take my tapestry needle and I can kind of break up these strands so that they fray a little bit. And there is the tail for our Leo, which is super cute. Here he is from the front. And now you are all finished. Congratulations, you have completed your Leo the Lion. He's giving you a round of applause. Thank you so much for joining me today for the tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you found it very helpful. I hope you also will check out the other Amitami kits from LYKKE, and until next time, we'll see you soon. Bye!